In the space of just a few weeks, Star Citizen, the most ambitious space game simulation, found itself embroiled in a series of controversies that really did ignite some of the concerns about its prolonged development, not to mention its internal management style. Now, to be perfectly fair here, I think it's also worth mentioning that the past couple of weeks have also been very good for Star Citizen and Squadron 42, because obviously Citizencon had some very nice looking demos and they impressed a lot of people there. So I spoke about all the good stuff in a previous video. In this video though, I want to talk about some of the larger issues that just can't be ignored and that really shouldn't be swept under the carpet. From enforced crunch periods and financial woes to community backlash over broken promises, these events have cast a shadow over a project already infamous for its turbulent 12-year journey. This video then, I'm going to delve into the recent issues that have surfaced, examining the implication for both the game's future and for its dedicated community. And we'll start with the mandated crunch leading up to Citizencon. On the 1st of October then, CIG employees were met with a somewhat startling directive from Global Head of Production, Erin Roberts. Development work on deliverables for Citizencon, the major annual event for the game, were mandated for employees to work every day, including weekends, up until October 19th. This 19-day stretch required a minimum of 8 hours per day, effectively eliminating any days off during this period. The mandate offered a time off in lieu, otherwise known as toil, and I absolutely love that term when it comes to working hard, for weekend hours and promised breakfast and lunch provisions. However, staff quickly raised legal concerns, particularly regarding UK labour laws, where this type of length of work, this type of hours, are generally prohibited by law, at least without any opt-out agreements. Now, in response, CIG adjusted the mandate, allowing employees to take Sundays off if they met the threshold of 56 hours worked from Monday to Saturday. Oh, isn't that nice of them? Now, the timing of these changes coincided suspiciously with media inquiries apparently from Insider Gaming, the well-known website, and this led to some employees to believing that the company was more concerned about public perception than the staff welfare. An additional company holiday for October 21st was announced, but many saw it as a superficial gesture aimed at mitigating backlash. The enforced crunch not only strained employee morale, but also highlighted the deeper issues within CIG's management practices, and whether these are directly related or not, we're going to go into some further issues as well. Now, Insider Gaming reared their head again, slightly before Citizencon, with an article to their website, an investigative article that really dove quite deeply into many of the issues surrounding both Star Citizen as well as CIG itself. And a part of these were the financial struggles that the article mentioned. So everything I discuss here has come from the Insider article website. Then you can find a link to that article in the video description. But what I'll do is go through some of the points that that article raises. So the article mentions that despite the $790 million raised since the game's inception in 2012, CIG's financial health appears to be precarious. By 2022, Insider Gaming say the company has spent $637 million on development, with annual expenditures averaging over $106 million between 2020 and 2022. With such a high burn rate, it would suggest that the funds raised are either depleted or very near to exhaustion. Now, earlier in the year, CIG reportedly laid off between 100 to 150 employees from its Austin and Los Angeles offices. Now, these layoffs allegedly were executed quietly, with affected staff members required to sign non-disclosure agreements in exchange for severance packages. Those who refused were allegedly denied any severance, effectively silencing potential critics and limiting transparency about the company's internal state. Now, current employees are feeling the financial pinch as well, apparently, with claims that wage increases have been frozen and opportunities for career advancement seem stalled. With the rising cost of living then, some staff members are struggling financially, leading them to reconsider their future with the company. This juxtaposition of these hardships against the company's substantial fundraising efforts has certainly raised questions about the fiscal responsibility and long-term viability of the company. And that really leads into another issue here, which is extravagant spending amidst these financial concerns. So whilst employees face frozen wages and layoffs, CIG's spending habits have drawn some criticisms for their extravagance. A prime example of this is the company's new Manchester office, which hasn't yet been fully completed. This office boasts what many would consider extremely luxurious amenities like an over-the-top coffee bar staffed by baristas. One employee sarcastically remarked, "At least we have baristas serving us coffee here," highlighting the disconnect between staff welfare and corporate expenditures. So, the implication here, the suggestion is that while CIG can't necessarily afford to maintain all their staff, they can nonetheless still hire baristas to serve the staff that remain there with coffee. So, that does seem a bit on the excessive side, doesn't it? Now, the office also features custom furniture, wall panelling, and even sci-fi themed doors designed to immerse employees in the Star Citizen universe. So it's not just enough to work on the Star Citizen world, but you've got to feel as though you're living inside of the Star Citizen universe whilst you're doing it. Some staff members view these expenses as unnecessary, especially given the company's financial strains, the company's supposed financial strains. These people argue that funds could be better allocated toward development needs or employee compensation rather than these lavish office aesthetics. So it's a pattern of spending that extends way beyond office decor. Reports also indicate that tens of thousands of dollars have been spent on oversized props and custom furnishings. Management often justifies these expenses by claiming that they are pushing the boundaries of game development. I'm not really sure how that justification fits in there, but nevertheless, many employees believe that the resources could be more effectively utilized elsewhere. So this leads on to some other concerns about the management issues there at CIG. So the Insider Gaming article goes on to explain that at the heart of Star Citizen's prolonged development are significant technical and managerial hurdles. The game is built on Star Engine, a heavily modified version of CryEngine, and employees have described it as a Frankenstein engine, a complex and unwieldy amalgamation that is difficult to work with. Now, frequent changes, additions and removals of features exacerbate these challenges, leading to delays and technical debt. Chris Roberts, the founder and CEO of CIG, is often cited as a central figure in the project's developmental struggles. Known for his perfectionist tendencies, Roberts is deeply involved in day-to-day decision-making, often micromanaging aspects down to the minutest details, and here staff members recount instances where meetings were derailed for extended periods to discuss trivial elements unlikely to impact the player's experience significantly. So this level of oversight really does lead to a cycle of constant revisions and reversals. Basic features can undergo multiple reviews and still be scrapped or altered after weeks of work, causing frustration among the developers, and understandably so. The lack of a clear and consistent vision then hampers progress and contributes to an environment where completing the game seems perpetually out of reach. As if this isn't enough, Insider Gaming goes on to cite a cult-like company culture. So the combination of technical challenges and managerial practices has cultivated what some describe as a cult-like culture within CIG. Experienced developers are leaving the company, often within a year of joining, due to the inability to effect meaningful change or push back against questionable decisions. These departures are steadily eroding the pool of seasoned professionals who could guide the project to completion, and in their place, CIG is hiring younger, less experienced developers, sometimes simply because they're fans of Star Citizen. Whilst the enthusiasm for the project is valuable, the lack of industry experience can hinder development, especially when mentorship from veteran staff is lacking, and this shift has led to a workforce where many will have Star Citizen as their first shipped game, raising concerns about the team's capacity to overcome the project's significant challenges. Employees report feeling unable to voice dissent or provide critical feedback, and the culture discourages questioning management decisions, which perpetuates existing problems and stifles innovation. As one current employee puts it, one current developer, "It's created an unhealthy place to work. You can't push back on anything." And that ultimately leads to an uncertain future and uncertain funding plans. Facing financial pressures and development roadblocks, yes, the game has raised $700 million, but it seems, according to this article at least, that most of that has now been spent. It means that CIG is exploring new avenues to sustain Star Citizen's development. A significant part of this strategy involves Squadron 42, the standalone single-player campaign of which you can see footage of on the screen right here. This had a significant demo at Citizencon this year. This is a standalone single-player campaign then, set in the same universe as Star Citizen. The game features high-profile actors such as Mark Hamill and Gillian Anderson and is seen as potential revenue generator that could reinvigorate funding. That, to me, is a long stretch because obviously many of the people who are interested in this game have already quite possibly spent money on it and purchased it already. However, it's open to yet a question as to how many people will want this in the future once it actually releases. And then there's always the theoretical possibility that CIG will release Squadron 42 on a console. So, yeah, according to Insider Gaming, that's not just idle speculation. Apparently, earlier in this year, CIG presented Squadron 42 to Microsoft, indicating a possible partnership or even an investment opportunity. The internal goal is to release the game as soon as possible, with hopes that its success will not only provide immediate funds, but also establish it as the first installment in a series of episodic releases, and that's always intended to be the case with Squadron 42. It's always been planned to release in parts, although from what Chris Roberts has said, the initial part is going to be 30 to 40 hours long, so these would be significant length of games. Additionally, CIG plans to introduce more ships at higher price points within Star Citizen, a strategy that has been met with mixed reactions from the community. There are also rumours of a third game in development, a medieval fantasy title that would diversify the company's portfolio. Now, my expectations here, if this is true, if it is a medieval fantasy title they've got in the works, I would fully expect CIG and Chris Roberts to go down the nostalgia path in much the same way they did with Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, where these two games were largely inspired by the Wing Commander series. There is another series of fantasy games that come out around about the same time, and that of course was the Ultima games. So yeah, pure speculation there, but it wouldn't at all surprise me if we saw an Ultima-inspired game coming out of CIG. So yeah, whilst that would certainly give CIG a more diverse range of games, it's also open to speculation as to how backers would feel with obvious Squadron 42 and Star Citizen funding money being spent on a completely different game. Either way, given the slow progress of the existing and current projects, some backers are sceptical about CIG's ability to deliver on any new promises. Now, moving away from the Insider Gaming article, we come to some other issues, which is community backlash over feature changes. So, the Star Citizen community, long accustomed to delays and shifts in development, reacted strongly to recent announcements about feature changes. One significant point of contention is the update regarding AI Crew and AI Blades. Developer Richard Trier informed players that whilst AI Blades, these are automated systems which could be plugged into ships, are part of the 1.0 release, AI crew members on the other hand, that would be full-on NPC crews, these would not be a part of the initial release, and this revelation was a bit of a bitter pill to swallow for many backers. For over a decade, CIG has discussed the inclusion of NPC crew members into Star Citizen, and some players have purchased with real money, I might add, the large multi-crew ships, and these to the tune of multiple hundreds of pounds, based on the promises that CIG would implement an NPC crew system to assist these players with crewing their large ships. So the prospect of not being able to operate these vessels as envisioned has certainly sparked some understandable frustration and disappointment. The situation then escalated rather quickly when John Crew, another CIG developer, stated that previous comments about certain ship features meant nothing, dismissing concerns about base building capabilities, for example, of the Galaxy ship. Crew literally said that the only confirmed module in addition to the ones on the pledge store is the manufacturing module. The general rule of thumb for all things vehicle is unless it's on the pledge store or available in-game, treat it as speculative, and this despite CIG at the last year's Citizencon doing a massive presentation on all these features. Crew basically saying, ignore all that, it's just speculative. Obviously, a lot of people not too happy because based on that presentation, they had spent a lot of money. Crew later took to the forums again to issue a partial apology, acknowledging that his remarks were unacceptable, However, the damage was already done. But then CIG's moderation team began banning forum posts and threads that criticised the company's handling of these issues, further inflaming the community. CIG apparently trying to sweep everything under the carpet. Now, many fans felt their voices were being silenced rather than heard, exasperating tensions between the developers and their most dedicated supporters. Ultimately then, this was quite a big chain of various different controversies, all within a very close period of time to each other, and this has intensified scrutiny on Star Citizen and CIG, although it seems they've managed to evade a lot of this criticism thanks to what's been shown at Citizencon, which has also generated a lot of interest and a lot of positivity. But ultimately, I think whichever way we look at it, it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to CIG, Star Citizen and Squadron 42 right now. Aside from all the issues we've mentioned, we've got Squadron 42 again being shown on the screen right here with a release date of 2016. Oh no, I mean 2026. Second time lucky with these announcements with a massive 10-year time gap. Let's hope it doesn't ultimately end up at 2036. Yes, that would have been a massive joke back in 2016 if I said hopefully it won't end up 2026, but here we are, it's a reality, or hopefully so. So yeah, there we have the mandated crunch period, which exposed some management issues at CIG and some apparently potential legal issues and financial strains as well, highlighting concerns about sustainability and fiscal responsibility. Not to mention development challenges and a stifling company culture, raising question about the project's ability to deliver on its grand promises. Community trust, a cornerstone of Star Citizen's crowdfunding success, has been eroded by perceived broken promises and a lack of transparency. After all, if one of the biggest points of funding for Star Citizen is indeed purchasing ships, and backers can no longer trust that the features they're paying for are going to make it into the game, well, that's, a bit of a problem, I'd say. What about you? Yeah, so as Star Citizen approaches 13 years of full development, the path forward requires a bit of a rethink of priorities, I'd say, and practices. As always, Squadron 42 and Star Citizen look good after these presentations at Citizencon, but underneath its dark, murky underbelly, it seems there might be just a few problems. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching this video all the way through to the end. There's another one linked on the screen right here if you want to check that out. Catch you all next time, and do take care.